Vuelta España 2024, stage 20, up here 1,500 meters on the top of Picon Blanco, the White Mountain. And I can tell you that the Red Bull, Primoz Roglic, charged ahead in the red jersey and added more time to his race lead, leading the race by 2 minutes and 2 seconds over Australian Ben O'Connor, heading into the final day, a time trial tomorrow in Spain's capital, Madrid. Irishman Eddie Dunbar from Team Jayco Alula escaped in the final 5 kilometers to win not only his first, but his second stage win in this Vuelta España. It's been a great ride for Eddie Dunbar, but there's some suspense around Primoz Roglic. Despite adding more time to his lead, there are some problems in the team. I'll unpack that here in a minute, but first let's talk about the day, because we had an escape that took a while to form. We saw riders coming back and forth until Red Bull was happy with the move. In the move, we had around about 10 riders. Significantly was the Mountains jersey of Marc Soler and his UAE team, Team Emirates teammate, Jay Vine. Also on the move, other riders, other power players like Jack Haig, the Australian from Bahrain Victorious. What was interesting in the move with Vine and Soler is that they were fighting for the points classification. Only a handful of points separated the two, with Soler in the lead in that white with blue polka dot jersey at the start of the day. They were letting Vine get the maximum points over the summit finishes. We had 7 on the day and 4,700 meters of climbing, the most in any stage so far in this Vuelta España. Vine was picking up the points, and then at some point, we had the counterattack of Soler. The group was getting whittled down. He was there with a decathlon rider teammate of Ben O'Connor, Birthday, and he stayed, Vine stayed with Birthday while Soler went up the road in a solo move. Well, while Soler was up the road, maybe going for a stage win, he was picking up points for the Mountains jersey, and at some point he pulls even. So Soler started the day leading the Mountains competition. Jay Vine took it overall in the virtual classification, and then Soler picked up enough points to tie them in the classification. Well, back behind, we saw Ineos working. I don't know why they were working. They were thinking it was back Team Sky days, and they had Chris Froome, star rider. They had Sugarman Carlos Rodriguez back there, and frankly, he hasn't been riding well in this Vuelta España, and he's dropped far out of the white jersey competition. A bit of wasted energy, and frankly, just doing the work for Red Bull. Bora Hansgrohe, T-Rex, Quick-Step, well, they were not going to let Ineos do all of that for Red Bull. They wanted to help out Red Bull as well, so they came to the front, hoping to set up something for Mikel Landa, who, if I'm not mistaken, on the first time we ever came up here to the Picon Blanco up in Castilla y León, he won the stage back in the glory days of Mikel Landa, super domestique now for Remco Evenepoel, which we saw at the Tour de France. Well, now he's here at the Vuelta España riding for himself. Quick-Step, T-Rex Quick-Step set it all up for him, as they did a couple of days ago, but really it never materialized to anything until we came down to the penultimate climb before we came up here to the Picon Blanco, which was around about 8 kilometers. And right ahead of that penultimate climb, we saw Pavel Sivakov, another UAE Team Emirates rider. Just as they'd pulled back the escapees, his teammates, Pavel Sivakov goes free. Now back in the group, Soler was distanced. Jay Vine was there in the GC group, hoping just to get enough points. If he got enough points, he was tied with Soler. He would take the KOM jersey at the end of the day, and he did. He got a few points, which put him in the lead at the end of today's stage, which gives him the overall classification victory, because tomorrow in the TT is smooth sailing, all flat right there in the capital of Madrid. So Jay Vine, congratulations. We can call you the winner of the Mountains Classification 2024, assuming you finish the 25-kilometer TT tomorrow. Now over the top, it was Sivakov. Down in the valley, it was Sivakov. And starting the final climb, it was Sivakov with about 50 seconds in hand. But the GC group was getting anxious behind. T-Rex, well, they turned it over to Red Bull. Red Bull was working hard. Now here's the drama, because early on in the stage, we saw the Red Bull team falling apart. A team that frankly hasn't been that organized all along. We were worried about that heading into today's stage, with Primoz Roglic having around 1 minute 56 over Ben O'Connor. Well, sickness seemed to have struck the team, maybe food poisoning or something. We heard that Martinez and Vlasov, his key helpers who helped set up that winning move yesterday, we heard that they were being dropped, and then we saw it on the camera, they were being dropped, and they weren't going to be there to help out Primoz Roglic. Then we heard Nico Dens was dropped. So we heard Martinez, later we heard that he had to abandon the race, and rumors going around of food poisoning. Then we heard Gamper had to abandon the race, and then later we heard that Nico Dens had abandoned the race, which wasn't true because I just saw Nico Dens finish last right behind Victor Campenaerts, well behind Victor Campenaerts, up to the finish line. And I think he made the time gap. They were holding up all the team cars before he finished. So that was unconfirmed news that they reported him as a DNF. Nico Dens will still be in the race, assuming he can make it through the night. I don't know what the boys have. But let me just tell you about the ending of the stage before we talk about how the riders explain the situation, the Red Bull riders here at the finish. Now, Eddie Dunbar was biding his time. We still had Sivakov up the road, the Frenchman, former Russian, and then Eddie Dunbar, with the confidence that he had from the other day, winning the stage victory after his bad luck in the Giro d'Italia. He attacks 5K out, perfect move because the GC guys behind him weren't really worried about him. He passes Sivakov, goes solo, but he's only holding on by a little bit, but back behind because Primoz Roglic doesn't really need the stage victory, doesn't really need the time. He's just watching the others. He comes to the front at some point, and Primoz Roglic, he had to rely on Roger Adria, and before that, Giovanni Aleotti. Lipovitz was swinging, yo-yoing front and back, and he was there at the back of the group when Primoz was riding at the front here on this climb. And then eventually he's able to get enough legs to go to the front to ride for Primoz. Primoz is there with Enric Mas, Richard Carapaz. There's some attacking, some moves in the bunch. Mas goes up, but frankly, there's a bit of a nothing burger on what was billed as the Queen stage of this year's 2024 Vuelta España. And Ben O'Connor, hats off to Ben O'Connor, really rode within himself, at times distanced, but because of that playing back and forth and because of the strength of the Australian, he was able to get back to the Primoz Roglic group, and it was only distanced by 4 seconds at the finish line. Primoz Roglic picked up 3rd place on the stage and would have gained 4 seconds in time bonus. So all in all, he gained 8 seconds on Ben O'Connor, who's now trailing by 2:02 back. Now at the finish line, Primoz Roglic goes right to the podium. We speak with him after he does the podium presentation. Also Eddie Dunbar, and he's over the moon. He's super happy, but we want to find out, investigate what's going on with Red Bull. We spoke with Florian Lipowitz. He explained that some staff members and riders are sick, likely food poisoning. I asked if they were all eating the same thing, and he said yes. He said that also Primoz Roglic, every night, even before these problems, he's isolated. Teams do that to make sure, in case any of this ever happens, the sickness, that doesn't spread around, especially to the team leader. Primoz Roglic seems okay. When I saw him there in the mix zone, he looked all right. We asked him what he had last night. He said, well, the same thing I've been having all night in this Vuelta España, and every race is pasta, rice, until you're just ready to vomit the stuff up. But that's what he had last night, and so he wasn't eating Mexican food or something crazy. But what we're thinking is that there could have been something in the food contamination. It passed through the team, although it would be quite unusual because normally the staff members don't eat what the personalized chef cooks just for those riders. So we can report for sure that he lost 2 key helpers, Martinez and Gamper, in today's stage. We think Nico Dens, I saw him finish the stage, we think he's going to be within the time cut and okay. The Vor Hansgrohe cars are riding right up there now, maybe picking up Primoz Roglic, who had to do anti-doping controls. He won't need the teammates as we head into tomorrow's TT 25-kilometer time trial in Madrid, set to win his 4th Vuelta España. Today it's Eddie Dunbar celebrating up here at Picon Blanco, and the Red Bull Primoz Roglic firmly in place, assuming he doesn't fall terribly ill overnight during the transfer down to Madrid. Is Primoz Roglic on top with a healthy advantage over Ben O'Connor, and Ben O'Connor over the moon with the way he rode today, securing his time over Enric Mas with enough time where if he rides a good TT tomorrow, he's going to keep that 2nd place, which is massive for the Australian, here at the 2024 Vuelta España.